This is the Private Club Leaders International Roundtable. You already heard a couple of accents on the phone already. So it's actually great that we've got leaders from all over the world joining us. This is truly an international call, which is great because we can crowdsource some ideas from what's happening all over the world. For those who don't know me, I'm Gabe Aloisi. I host the Private Club radio show every week. I do a YouTube channel called Let's Play Through, and I've written a number of books on membership development and marketing for the industry. And of course, I have the Private Club Agency. We help clubs with their membership development, retention, and I do some consulting for clubs. Here's our agenda for today's call. We're going to have these 4 talking points to start out. If we need more talking points to add, we'll add them. But we're going to start off with retention strategy. By the way, folks, if you haven't, if you just came in the room, please mute your microphone and just unmute it when you're ready to talk to us. So retention strategies, talking point number 1. Number 2, communication with members and staff. 3, I want to talk about lessons and long-term pivots. And what I mean by that is lessons that we're learning through going through this crisis together and things that might stick around, some changes we're making to our clubs that we might carry over once our clubs do open back up and it's back to hopefully business as usual, hopefully sooner than later. And then I want to get into just personal boredom and stress management ideas. I think that's going to be really valuable for people, just to be able to share what we're all kind of going through and hopefully help each other out here. I'm going to stop my screen share here just so I can let a few people into the room that are waiting. Just lay down a couple more ground rules here. If you're just joining us, please mute your microphone unless you're speaking. When you are speaking, please just limit your comments to 30 seconds or less. And we're going to get right into it. So our first topic here today is going to be retention strategy. I'm going to reshare my screen here just to go over a few talking points with you. Retention strategy, and I have underneath there hope versus action. Hopefully you are in the action phase right now rather than the hope phase. Go ahead and mute your microphone, folks, if you haven't already. That way we won't hear any feedback for everyone else. So let's go over quickly just some of the ideas that came through last call, and then we're going to open it back up into some new ideas and some discussion points from last call. So I'm going to have to mute everyone's microphones because it looks like someone still got theirs on. All right, so from last time we had some best ideas. One club talked about personal reach out calls, reaching out to your members and your staff personally on a weekly basis, which I think was really valuable lesson just to keep everyone in the loop about what's going on and just give that personal touch that they can't get when they're walking through the club. We talked about doing virtual club meetups. We had Denny Corby on the line, who was also my podcast guest this week, if you heard Private Club Radio. He talked about doing a virtual magic show, but the virtual club meetup, the players in New York City actually did a Zoom call like this, and then they sectioned off certain members to be in different rooms of the club. So they have a grill room, they have a library room, and some other rooms in their club, and they section people off to have a virtual happy hour, which I thought was really cool. We talked about doing, maybe having your chef come do a Zoom call again like this, creating a recipe that folks could follow along with and cook at home. We could do the same thing with golf lessons or tennis lessons or some of the other fitness instructors you might have at your club. And then Donna Coyne gave us a great idea about virtual children's camps where parents and children could come online and actually do some activities together. So those are all some of the great ideas. There was many more, but those were a few ideas we had last call. I'm going to put some new discussion points up for you guys for this week, and then I'm going to open it up to everyone to put in their 2 cents. But some things that I was talking about with some of my clients this week, we talked about shipping some in-home practice equipment and launch monitors for their members. So since the members can't actually come to the club, it actually could be shipped something they could do practice indoors, which was pretty interesting. We talked also about, actually I'm a part of another group called Podfest. So it's a bunch of podcasters that get together. And what they were doing this week is they're creating a challenge within the podcast group where you create a music video. You take any kind of popular song and in your house or in your well, you're going to be in your house, not your place of business right now, but in your house, you do like a karaoke type of challenge. So any kind of inter-club challenges, I think, would be a really great way to keep people engaged together. We've seen things like, in the past, the ice bucket challenge. Come up with something creative like that you can get your members involved in, and to actually post a video or post some sort of message to the group. I think that would be a great way to keep people right now more than ever just need distractions. They need to feel connected because we're all alone. I'm sitting in my home office here in my spare bedroom, and I'm not a homebody. And probably a lot of you aren't, or a lot of us are extroverts that are sitting in this room. So are our members. So people, just give them a way to connect and distract them. Michael Crandall also brought up a third point in terms of this discussion, which is maybe shifting the role of your membership director more towards the retention side rather than the new member side. And I think that was a great point. So that's just a few talking points to get us started, but this is where I want to open it up to our great minds throughout the country and talk about some new ideas we've got for retaining our members, which I think right now is one of the number one challenges we're all going to face. Who wants to start off? Go ahead and unmute yourselves.
Oh, can you hear me, Gabe?
Yep. Hey, Terry, how are you, sir?
Well, I got a couple shout outs that have really been fantastic. Tim Walker, many of you know, is at a club in Northern California. And Tim started a fireside chat with his members at the same time using his chef and recipes to do videos. And he's done 5 videos since the early March that are just excellently produced, just wonderfully done. And that goes back to the same thing of continuing the communication between the membership and developing a tie between the club and that member during these times of distress. Another shout out is to Don Sciotta down at Wichita Falls Country Club in Texas, where Don turned, and this was early on, a couple of weeks ago, he turned his pantry into a grocery store for his members. And they made their order, they went to their bill, and they got all the toilet paper, Kleenex, starches, and proteins that they wanted, ready for them to be picked up curbside. And of course, that's happened in a lot of major metropolitan cities too, with the supply chain to restaurants. So those are a couple shout outs that I just wanted to mention.
2 great ideas there. I love both of those. I've seen a couple of clubs do like a pantry where you could kind of check off some items, and then the club will either put it together for you to pick up, or maybe even deliver it out to your club. I thought that was a great idea. Who else wants to weigh in on this conversation on retention specifically and keeping members engaged?
You can pop on there, Gabe.
Hey, Matt.
Yeah, I think, in the retention aspect, I think communication is perfect more than anything. I feel like we've been very open and honest with our members and our procedures and how we're going. We've gotten a lot of positive feedback, a lot of understanding from our membership, and I think it's having fun with it. Like you said, tonight I'm going to do a video from my apartment on how to make my own particular martini with our members, and it's probably going to be a laughable thing, but I think it's also an opportunity for me to kind of put myself in front of members that I haven't met yet and haven't been introduced to. So I'm trying to take a negative situation and make it a positive.
What's your martini secrets, out of curiosity?
It's actually very simple. That's the fun of it. Is it's literally they're going to get a bottle of Tito's with a lime on it, and they're going to be like, "What is this?" And then I'm just going to walk them through how I like my martinis. So, having a little fun with it and just trying to bring a couple laughs to it. So.
Well, I think the main point I hear there is just getting FaceTime with your members. It's probably a lot of us, we don't necessarily get a chance to see all of our clients. This is actually a good opportunity for us to get FaceTime. That's why my first point there today was those personal calls, that idea that came from last week, doing those personal calls, personal Zoom meetings like this can be one-on-one with people just to do some check-ins, especially with your staff too. Who else wants, thanks Matt, who else wants to weigh in here? Towns, are you guys doing anything new with the players?
Sure. Yeah, I can talk about a few things we're doing at the players because we are, here in New York City, we are, we are sheltering in place. So we may not be far from our fellow club members as the crow flies, but realistically, we're really distant from each other. And because the Players is a very social club. People really genuinely enjoy hanging out together, and we are very we're not people who tend to sort of clump in couples or threes. We tend to sort of have big groups together. That's one of the reasons that we have been using Zoom, and we are moving toward doing some things there that are also more participatory. Our virtual happy hour scheduled for tomorrow night will be having one of our members, who is a longtime school teacher, do a session of drink and draw. So people are being told to bring paper and pencil with them. She'll give prompts, and you'll have in a timed fashion have to produce a sketch. Nice. Based on what she's told you. And it's one of those things where having artistic ability is definitely not required. So we'll be doing that. We've also talked to some of our other members who about doing pre-recorded or Facebook Live sessions. We're lining up to do a sort of guided meditation for stress management for members that they can tune into and just have this sort of 10 or 15 minute session when they can just sort of be quiet and have somebody take them through a meditation. Also, one of our members who is a physical therapist, we're talking to about doing kind of a stretching kind of session in that, to get people off the sofa, in their own homes, to sort of, get up and do something that is both tied to the club and having a sense of community, as well as something that's really good for you while you're stuck at home, because most of our members really are very much stuck in the house.
Yeah, I love the guided meditation ones. I really think, and I'm going to bring it up a little bit more later on here, that helping your with just the mental well-being of your members right now is going to be really helpful for them. And the more you can be of help, the more you can be of service, the better chance we're going to have to retain our members. By the way, before we move on to the next person who wants to join in, I'm just going to drop a couple links into the chat. One was just last week's, if you missed it, some of the discussion we had there. And I just put in a couple of kind of inexpensive golf simulators. So along my ideas of getting people to maybe do a little golf or some practice at home, there's a couple links to some products that your club could think about maybe sending around. Who else wants to join in here on the conversation? Don't be shy, guys.
Hey.
Jenny?
Can I go? I was just sort of like looking at some of the UK, what the UK clubs that are also doing, just on like retaining members and that. Some of them it's just, I've seen like the personal messages to people. So just literally say, what are you doing this weekend? Or what did you do this weekend? And kind of get chats going through that way. It seems to be quite good feedback. Also clubs that have, you do not your Zoom meetings and bits and pieces. Having them, instead of having like your golf calendar, replace them now with your whatever you're doing, so people can then look down and see that you've got Monday, you've got your meditation, Tuesday you've got your chef, Wednesday, and then obviously different times, so then people can see as if it's like your club's running as normal. It's just obviously not golf matches, it's your virtual events.
I love that. So just unpack that. So, you probably have a inter-club calendar, or you have a newsletter, a calendar in it, and to actually have specific times for people to be able to join in with different activities. I think that's a great idea, Jenny. Keep going, Jenny. I didn't mean to stop you. I just thought that was such a good one. We wanted to make sure.
Yeah, no, as I say, it was just, I see things going out ad hocly, and it's just bringing it all together. So, your club still is a club with members and everything. And it's about being the personal side. A lot of the stuff, I had a number of ideas which already been covered that clubs already are doing, which is awesome. Yeah, no, I think that's probably about it, because I say I've got got a whole load of ideas, but people have already come up with them, which is great. But so yeah, my key thing was literally keep personal communication and stuff. Maybe even write thank you letters to key members of staff, your members, just said you're thinking of them. There might be a lot of handwriting going on there. But sometimes the old traditional ways of doing things maybe makes it for nice people.
Yep.
So.
We got more time on our hands to do some of that stuff. Some of us anyway, sitting in our houses. So I think.
Well, a letter that's not a bill is actually always nice. So.
Absolutely. Let's see, Kristen, you also said sending out thank you notes when your groups would traditionally meet. That's a great idea. Nisa, you said that you're doing something at Mirabel. You want to chime in here on what you guys are doing?
Hey, absolutely. So in addition to a lot of video communications that we're producing with our department heads, our head of golf, our head of fitness, our general manager, Marcy, our food and beverage director, our executive chef, they're all putting out video messages. But I'm also really getting much more active on our members only Facebook page. What we have done actually is done a kind of dinner for two meal special, since we're still allowed to do takeout meals. And I promote that daily through our Facebook page. And it really gets the members engaged, actually. It's kind of fun. They all just really express how grateful they are that we're still here doing this for them. And then like yesterday, since we didn't have a dinner for two special because the kitchen was closed, excuse me, I went ahead and just said, how was everybody's weekend? You know, what was your highlight of your weekend? And I got some wonderful, wonderful answers. So it was really fun to just kind of engage them in that way. Because I tell you, they are all on Facebook right now. When they're not on our golf course, they're on Facebook.
Yeah, we're on a Zoom conference call with their employees or something. Yeah, absolutely. I think the overarching theme here is that video, finding a way, you know, that's our next best thing to being in a room with someone, is to be able to send them a video. If you guys remember last week, Denny Corby also talked about Bomb, which you can do a quick little text message video to people, basically, and that's a really good tool. So find interesting and creative ways to use video. That's going to help. Who else wants to chime in on this subject in terms of retention? What are you doing to maintain the relationships with your members right now? Melissa Hanson or Kathy Pettit, either you two want to chime in from Naples area?
Hey Dave, it's Kathy.
Hey Kathy, how you doing?
How you doing? Yeah, so I guess I would just tag on to, I've had a members Facebook page that's private only, where it's me and my professional profile that I've been members. It's called Anchors Away, which is kind of my tagline since I'm a yacht club. And we used it a lot during the renovation 2 years ago, and we're using it a lot again now. For not only like sharing the memories that Facebook has on there automatically of all the past events we've had at the club. We're doing like memory of the day, 2 or 3 of them. And then we're also, it's just really good to be able to share links on at-home activities. So that's been very helpful. And I think that we're going to get into more of the video conferencing. I'm trying to get with my general manager about that. But boating is very popular right now. But there is social distancing guidelines for that too. So that's interesting to try to message that. We're working from home mostly, but we do have staff at the club. The club is not open. We are not even doing takeout. But we're, you know, cleaning up our outdoor areas, that, you know, keeping them tidy and with the chemicals in the pool and all that kind of stuff. So if they want to enjoy those activities, they can, but they're unsupervised. And we're, you know, it's hard at yacht club because we don't have a golf course where they can also go out and golf,
Sure.
which a lot of the clubs in Naples here are doing that and takeout. But we're a very small club, so we just have about 400 household memberships. So the to-go wasn't really, it was popular by, you know, a handful of people, but really not enough to keep the staffing going. So we eased out of that, and then hopefully we'll ease back into it as things improve.
Sure, absolutely. Chris, I'm going to unmute you. So my friend Chris Kremitzos is on here with us, and he's doing a really cool thing I was telling you about with the Podfest community in terms of doing like a challenge. And Chris, I'd love for you to tell us why that's such a good kind of like exercise to put together for the group.
Well, you're talking about the
Like
calls we've been doing?
No, the karaoke challenge you've got going on right now?
Oh, yeah. So we created the Podfest Jingle Challenge. And since everybody's held up at home and they're going nuts, this allows them to videotape them lip syncing to a song at home. And then we'll clip everybody sing and make basically a montage. And then it goes viral amongst the group and everybody has fun. They laugh. Quite honestly, we're not really worried about looking dumb because we all look dumb. We're at home. A lot of people haven't cut their hair. Their kids are behind the background yelling or other stuff is going on. So that's out the window. Like I wouldn't even worry about appearances because no one cares at this point. Hollywood celebrities don't have makeup. I mean, the whole world is coming to an end. So we're basically poking fun at the whole thing and having fun. What it does though is it's bonded us. And thanks to this group, I was on the last call. I created a happy hour call immediately. That's been great. We actually are now doing where people watch Tiger King. We had a call about that. That was phenomenal. So our engagement is actually going through the roof. And the Podfest jingle is the next one. Then someone suggested a dance challenge, so we'll roll that out later.
I love that.
Now, Gabe, I want to make sure people have big budgets because our reward for whoever wins this challenge is they get to tell us about what project they're working on. There's no money. No one cares about money right now. So it's great. You can do challenges for nothing. You can give them a ceremonial mug from your club or whatever. They'll go nuts over it. So it's more keeping each other entertained, having fun, and not taking ourselves seriously, which I think is what's needed.
Yeah.
Everybody's getting coronavirus updates everywhere, so I'm staying away from that since they're getting it from 100 different sources. We're just keeping them lively and happy and interacting with each other, and they're actually thanking us for that because they're able to come into a happy place known as our community, Podfest, and that reinforces my image and my culture, which is what I want anyways. So when we come out of it, we're even stronger, and I get to know people that I really just like a lot of people in clubs, you might think you know people, but you really don't. And then you start getting them on Zoom calls. You start learning this one does this or the hobbies. And we did One Truth, One Lie yesterday. That was a lot of fun. So sorry,
Yeah.
Gabe, I talk a little too long, but I've been having fun with it.
Well, I think what's great about what you're doing is obviously it's a community building, function. But when you've got people actually sharing those videos, doing things for the club, then there is that viral element to it that you just mentioned. So since your club can't really be doing any kind of quote unquote membership marketing or advertising right now, what a great way to get the word out about what you're doing by creating a hashtag or some kind of challenge that people are putting out there. And then the other, there's just a lot of good things about what you're doing in terms of long-term retention, which I think is pretty cool.
And I have competitors in my marketplace, even though we're an interactive, so we teach podcasting, but we're like the trade show for the world of podcasting. And I have competitors that are literally 10 times the size of me, but what they can't beat and they still can't figure it out is our people, maybe because I'm Greek, we have the 300 Spartans that are ride or die. So when our people are promoting our brand, they promote like there's no tomorrow. And we literally have as many attendees as they do, but their social reach is so much bigger. We focus in the quality of interaction and we go deep. And that allows for when our people talk about our group, they're creating stuff I wouldn't be able to afford to pay. And I have to say, thanks to Gabe. Gabe is one of like my consultants that I lean on for information. And he's just a genius marketer and he has these ideas. And I think you're the one that actually inspired the Podfest Jingle Challenge, Gabe. I don't know if you remember that.
Well, maybe if you could dig up the link, put the link to our song in the chat.
It's really embarrassing, and I'm gonna cringe just thinking about it. But let me see if I could.
Want a good laugh? We'll put the link in there. All right, we'll move on from that part. But again, think of a creative way to get people involved and creating sort of messages for each other, and that's gonna go a long way towards retention. Who else has any more ideas before we move on to topic number 2? Does anyone else want to chime in here? All right, well, I'll assume by our silence we're moving on to topic number 2. Topic number 2 is, what has been the most effective way to communicate with your members? I know a lot of us are using this Zoom platform because it's so good, but what else are you using? Are you using email? Are you using your private Facebook groups? Let's talk about some interesting strategies and how we can stay in touch with staff and with members during this time. Who wants to chime in on that one? Anyone using a platform other than Zoom? Yes.
Yeah, Gabe, with members, we're using email, but with staff, it's personal communications, either text or phone, just to so that we can have the conversation with them as if we were standing in the bar or in the kitchen and having a chat with them.
Yep, that's very good. Yeah. Who else is using another type of technology? I know I've created a couple WhatsApp groups. Obviously, WhatsApp is like a text messaging platform. It's used internationally a lot more than in the US, but as long as you have a cell phone, you can have WhatsApp. And so you can actually create groups. Like if you want to talk to specific members of your staff, you can do that. I also want to put a little plug in for member text right now, because I think that platform is, if you haven't been there, go to membertext.net. I'll put the link in the chat as well. But they're actually offering, I think, free for at least 60 days, and they'll probably extend that free offer. You can create text groups, so you can update either members or staff on what's happening in real time. And the platform is so good because if you look across email right now, the open rates keep falling and falling and falling. It used to be that I used to get probably 40% open rates on my little newsletters and communications, and probably now get more like 20 or 18 or something like that. Whereas text messaging, 98% open rates with text messaging because everyone's got the device in their pocket. So definitely check out membertext.net. Like I said, you can't beat free, and he's giving it to everyone for 60 days to help out during this crisis. So that's really cool of him.
Gabe, we used Facebook Live on my Anchors Away page.
Yep.
So the other day when I went into work on Sunday, at the end of the day before I left, I went ahead and went outside on our portside patio, we call it, which you have to come down and see our facility. But anyway, we did a Facebook Live, and it was like right prior to sunset with the Gulf of Mexico, the boats coming in, and it was just kind of, we missed everybody, and, I wanted to share this with you. And we got all kinds of comments from especially people that have returned north, our snowbirds, that were like, we really need to see that right now. It was great. So Facebook Live worked good for me.
Nice. Jenny, I know you've got a club apps that you do. Are you seeing more action with people using the chat features and things like that?
Yeah, they are. The notification side of things are being used. I see ones come out every single day. And what I found surprising was the people using the apps, so club members, are using the apps more actively this month than they were last month. Even though there's similar sort of number of push notifications coming out from the clubs, because the clubs use it as a communication tool to their members, whether it's events, promotions, or even course updates. But over the last sort of 3 or 4 weeks, the stats are going upwards because some of them are just pointing them to join a particular event, and through an app, unlike text, you can actually just touch the link and it'll go through to, say, here's Zoom if you program the Zoom in. Text notification, open rates are very, very high on push notifications because it comes across their screen so they can see it. Yeah, is the answer to that. There has been a lot of increase in usage.
Interesting usages, like any ideas that you've seen clubs doing that might be a little outside the box?
Not overly outside the box. I've seen the majority of ones that are coming out are things like clubs that have got things like V1, the pros that are sending out notifications saying, take the video, then we'll do this and review it for you. Before we had full closure, there was the takeout menus and things like that.
Right now can't even do takeout.
No, we can't. Yeah, can't do that now. over the weekend, I saw ones about dog walking. Our course is open for dog walking. If you want to walk, obviously keep social distances. Mine's going blank. News updates, messages from the GM and stuff, because it will link straight to a video, so they can obviously have a personalised message. And a lot of the other messages I've seen coming out are literally, we're thinking of you.
Yeah.
I did see one or two. I'm not too sure what the result was, but I did see one or two people that actually say, "Don't forget dues are paid." Not quite sure how well that went down, but unfortunately over here it is literally April. The 1st tends to be when everyone pays the subs, and it's just such a bad time. As I'm sure Richard down there will actually know what I mean by that. But yeah, I'm not quite. I mean, the app did actually get more activity that day, but I'm not quite sure what they were thinking at that point. But,
Yeah. Well, thanks, Jenny. Thanks for joining us.
So,
Anyone else have any other unique communication or any platforms they're using that might be beneficial for all of us to look into?
Gabe, I know that there's a lot of tools out there to communicate with your staff. And of course, there's the groups on Facebook. But one I found that was closed, it's a closed network, is something called Workplace by Facebook. Found it to be phenomenal. It's just like Facebook, but only people in your group can see what you're putting in there. I've got 21 people in Club Advisors who are on it, and sometimes I will post something and they've got the notification system. Sometimes I will post something and within an hour I've got at least half of them have seen it. So it's a communication tool, and all you need to do is go to a URL and type in Workplace, and you can start that for free. So it's quite good.
So is it completely free? Is there a monthly charge eventually, or how does it work?
Well, if you add a lot of subscribers and you add some whistles and bells, then there's a per person subscription fee as you grow the network.
Got it.
But it's specifically free.
Awesome. Excellent. Very cool. So check that one out, Workplace by Facebook. That's a very good one. I'm just going to go back to what Chris said earlier, is that a lot of people are getting those COVID-19 updates, a lot of like bad news. Try to give people something a little bit more positive and a little bit more fun right now. I think we've gotten past the real, heavy stuff. I think people are aware of what's going on at this point. Now it's more about just keeping people engaged and taking their mind off of what's happening. We're going to move on to topic number 3 here, which is, what have you learned or what pivots have you made that will last beyond this crisis? And I'll just throw out a couple ideas. Doing more virtual meetings, whether that's with club members, with staff, doing more live streamed events, and maybe some of your clubs are going to continue doing takeout and delivery type services beyond this. Those are just a few things we can do. I think we do need to kind of realize what things aren't going to go back to normal overnight. I think if you look at the news, I think it's clear that we're going to be probably in this situation for a couple of months. And even when we get through the summer and back into the fall, we're going to wake up. It's not like we're going to wake up and things are going to go back to normal, right? There's going to be some changes that are going to persist until at least a vaccine comes out. So what things do you plan on doing at your clubs, or what things do you think will persist in your organization that you've learned through this time period? I'll just start it off in saying we're definitely going to do a lot more virtual meetings. I'm actually now sort of contemplating, we have a physical office, and we're seeming to work just as efficiently remotely as we are from an office. So I could potentially save that expense and get a little bit leaner with my operation if we go fully virtual. Is anyone else considering something that they've learned from this? John McCabe just arrived. Go ahead, Matt.
Buddy.
I'm in there.
Yeah, I'm here. How are you?
Hey, John. I'm going to come back to you in a second. Matt, go ahead.
Yeah, I think, and it's fortunately enough, my restaurant background has already kind of set me up for this, but I think it's just looking at your menus, cultivating. I've been pulling P-mixes every week with our limited menus, and granted it's limited, so we're pointing in the direction, but I think it's really just kind of prepared my mindset after this to be a little more lean, a little more selective, and focus on doing less things really, really well, instead of doing a ton of things mediocre. So for me, that's been my biggest takeaway in this, and I can see those numbers showing me that when I try to do something that's kind of outside of our realm on the takeout side. So it's been very insightful for me.
Yeah, times like these, we're all going to have to trim the fat for sure. I think, I'm looking at all the tools that we were, monthly purchases that we make or subscriptions we have, and really figuring out what's critical and what was just excess. I think everyone's going to need to be looking at that pretty closely here. Anyone else have getting some lessons from this, some that they're going to take into the future?
Well, Gabe, actually here at Mirabel, we were going to, we're breaking ground on a $6 million renovation in May.
Wow.
And so we were supposed to, look at really creative ways to keep our membership engaged while we're going through this renovation. And now we're having to kind of fast track those innovations and those ideas. So it's been kind of nice that we've had that we know how we're going to proceed as far as our fitness classes when it comes to the summer with all of the renovations. It's still a little bit up in the air as far as how our food and beverage is going to go, but this has really pushed us to come up with these ideas a lot earlier than we had originally planned on implementing them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep, excellent. Kristen, I'd love you to chime in because I know you've been using the chat a lot, but we'd love to see your face or at least hear your voice. You've got a couple ideas of things you're going to take away from this.
I think that my club is, we really need to get more into the engagement and into the more community side. We've been a pretty traditional private club for about 60 years, and we're in a really small community. So for me, I'm trying to kind of leverage that stay local hometown feel, and kind of maybe this is what the catalyst we need to do to kind of move forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep, well said. Anyone else want to chime in here before we move on to our last talking point for the day? Any other lessons you've learned? Maybe save a few dollars for a rainy day. Could be a good one. Oh, man.
Hey, Gabe.
John, yeah. Hey, man. How are you?
I think there are going to be a lot of clubs that don't. I think there are a lot of clubs that aren't going to make it through this.
Yeah, I think
we already talked about that. Sorry to be late.
No, introduce yourself for us, and then we'd love to hear what you have to say.
John McCabe. I used to be in the club business.
Where were you in Chicago?
I ran the Union League Club for 22 years, and if you're over 60, you probably have heard of me. If you're not, you haven't. So, I've been around a long time. 20 years in Arizona. Terry and I actually know each other from the military.
Wow.
So Terry Clark and I go back a long way.
Yeah, for sure.
So I've had a really successful career. I consult with a lot of clubs, city clubs and country clubs alike. City clubs are in deep trouble. There's some real survivability issues, especially for some of the smaller ones. And then all the clubs that are on the edge right now, this will be, I think this will be the same sort of thing we saw after the Great Recession. I think there'll still be clubs that are ending up becoming municipal golf courses. And I think it's going to be, Nissa, is your Mirabel the one that's in Scottsdale?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I spent 20 years in the Phoenix market. I lived at the base of Camelback.
John, I'd love for you to say, what advice would you give for city clubs right now? What would be your biggest piece of advice or a couple pieces of advice?
Well, you look at the clubs that are doing it well and doing it right, and you look at the clubs that are hanging on, trying to commercialize what they're doing, and the stickiness of a membership is the key. What is the value that they have with the people that they're associated with at the club? And what is the relationship that the club has? And as Bill McMahon says, is it the third place? And unless there's a real sticky membership, and unless you have built that bond, I know one of the city clubs locally got 37 leave requests last week here in Chicago. Most people know what the four major clubs in Chicago are: the Chicago Club, which is the CEO club, and They have an $8,000 initiation. They're real solid. They're not going any place. The Standard Club, which is the Jewish club, which has announced that it's closing on May 1, but it's currently closed and not likely to reopen. Terry did a great job of getting an interim manager in there, who's a really good guy. My old club, Union League Club, is having some issues with membership, but they're still doing okay. And University Club with John Spitalet is really just owning the market right now. He spent $14 million and built out a rooftop restaurant, and his membership has grown from about 1,800 to 2,300 in the last 5 years.
So if there's one way people can remain sticky during this time for you, John, what would it be?
I'm afraid that if you haven't been sticky before now, you may have that ship may have sailed.
Okay.
You know, both the Union League and a lot of the clubs are doing good things with. The Union League is doing a nice thing right now where they're doing a cooking class every day between 1 and 2. You can buy a package of food from the club, and 1 to 2, the chef goes through how to produce it. You know, so it's something to be entertaining and interesting, and that's cool. They're doing virtual meetings and things like that, which I think a lot of other clubs can do.
Yep. We've talked about definitely doing some virtual meetups, some virtual classes, and holding some online events.
But they're doing it every day.
Yeah, and we talked also about doing a schedule, and again, I won't bring that point back up. That having a schedule that people can stick to, you know, something that you're doing Monday through Friday, or you know, at least a few days a week that people can look forward to. That's really important because we do need to instill a little bit of hope in our members right now. Thanks, John, for chiming in.
Okay, I'll be quiet now.
Because I've got a hard stop here at 2:55. My wife is a mental health counselor. She's a marriage counselor, and as you can imagine, people need her more than ever right now as they're all stuck next to each other. So I've got a hard stop at 2:55. We're going to move on to our fourth and final topic. Let me share the screen one more time here to remind everybody what that topic is. That is, what are you doing personally to stop boredom at home? So I know a lot of us have watched Tiger King and probably a lot of Netflix. As Chris was talking about, sometimes you just need to add a little bit of levity, you know, with your membership. So maybe he held like a Tiger King talking discussion at 9 o'clock at night the other day, and people had a blast just like talking about Tiger King. But whether it's a new book you've read, you know, a new game you found, a new TV show, I'd love for you just to share with us what you're going through on a personal basis. And I hope that others will get some inspiration from that. I'll also put in a shameless plug for my YouTube channel, which I'll drop a link into. But I basically built a golf course in my house. And so I set up shots on top of like the dining room table, and I was hitting it from the living room and hitting it over walls and things like that. So we had some fun just kind of staying at home here during the quarantine. That video has really made an impact on some people. I think they've already started buying some home golf stuff. So I'll drop the link in there, but I'd love to hear from you guys. What are you doing in your world just to stay busy, and something that we can all hopefully learn from? Hopping on a Zoom call like this is probably one of those things, right?
Hey, it's Towns. I will say I've done more reading in the last 3 weeks than I have probably done in the last 2 years. I've carved out enough time to do that. I will highly recommend the app Libby, Libby. That if you can't get to a library or bookstore, and of course Amazon is prioritizing other things, they're prioritizing what they're shipping out. So if you can't get books shipped in, it's a great way to get ebooks from your local library or audiobooks. And if you don't have a library card for your local library, you can get it right there online. So that's been a savior for me.
What's been your favorite book that you read in these last 3 weeks, Towns?
I've been reading junk, like the most sort of escapist, celebrity, autobiography, self-indulgent kind of stuff. It's nothing serious at all.
I love it. That's good. I think that's a lot of us need, just to escape. And I'm reading a thriller novel myself right now, just to take my mind off of things. And obviously, like I said, a lot of junky TV on Netflix like Tiger King. Who's watched Tiger King, by the way? Who's actually seen the show? I got Matt. Matt raised his hand there. If Steve, you've seen it. Steve, we saw you getting a haircut the other day, so it's
Yeah, in my garbage bag.
that was funny. How about you, sir? What else are you doing getting through this?
Me?
Yeah, Steve. Yeah.
You know, I've been doing a lot of this. It's been amazing how many people have been reaching out, and we've all been talking about this moving goal line that we're all so afraid of. The unknown is just petrifying all of us. And I just sent Jonathan a private message. I agree with his point. There's going to be a lot of clubs that, you know, there was a phrase I used before this, which was, if not now, when? And all of those clubs that, you know, had not been progressive and like Mirabelle, you know, preparing for a $6 million, you know, renovation are going to find themselves irrelevant. And so I'm on the phone a lot, just, you know, talking to clients, talking to, and what you guys are doing, trying to find out what others are doing for success. Because Gabe, as you pointed out, I'm tired of the COVID-19. Stay healthy. Let's do it's, you know, it's time for clubs now to be talking about strategies as opposed to just the philosophy of boy, this is bad. What's going to happen?
Yep.
So
I know you didn't make it for the beginning, but we've kind of started off of hope versus action.
Yeah.
It's not the time to remain hopeful right now. It's the time for massive action. Luckily, we've got a bunch of great people here who are looking to take action in their clubs. So again, thanks all for joining us.
Like Jonathan, I apologize. I came in late, so I probably just brought up subjects that you already discussed about in length. So I apologize for that.
We're happy to have you, Steve. Thanks for joining us, man.
Gabe, I'm working with one of my clients, and one of the things that we've been doing is researching what sorts of tools are available under the 2 acts that have passed Congress. And as you know, 501c7s are excluded, but private clubs like President Trump owns are not excluded because they're for-profit businesses. And I think that there's a great opportunity for clubs to reach out to their local congressmen, and you know, all of us know congressmen and senators, and this is a time to make sure that the next bill, and there will be another bill, there's no question, includes 501c7s with the same sorts of, you know, if you keep your employees, you get a loan, and the loan's forgiven if you keep your employees, and all those sorts of things should apply to 501c7s. They only apply to 501c3s. There are 13 different C's.
Right.
And this is a time where NCA needs to really step up, CMA needs to step up, but each of the clubs can reach out to people directly because we employ enormous numbers of people and we're a significant player in our communities. You know, you look at the number of clubs in Scottsdale and Phoenix and what they do for the economy there, it's staggering. I mean, there are 160 clubs in the Chicago area, for God's sake.
Yep, exactly. Well, that's a great tip there, is just get active, do a little activism while we're at home too. Again, we can't just sit around and be upset. We got to do something and take some massive action right now. Anyone else? Go ahead, John.
That could materially change things.
Right, exactly. Yep, exactly. I think, like we said before, you know, we're all learning lessons from this. And to John's point about if your club maybe wasn't sticky in the first place, it's going to be that much harder during this time. Who wants to leave us with some lessons of some action steps they're going to take at their club once we get back to quote unquote, you know, at least our new normal? Who's any particular action steps you guys, Towns or Michael McCurdy, that you guys are going to take at the players?
I think we're still trying to get ourselves through all this. You know, some of the ideas that came up here, I think, were great in terms of retaining interest, like a interclub challenge, and I think somebody put up on the chat about virtual bingo, which I thought was maybe falls into our criteria. You've also given me a lot to think about it's not going to be the same when we return, and I agree with you there. I think our club is very sticky, but I just received 5 resignations today because bills went out today, right, for the end of March, and I just got 5 resignations, which is unfortunate, but it's going to be expected. I think in most cases, it's going to be people. I've seen several. I was reading some as we were talking here, and some of them is my income has just gone to zero. I mean, I've got a member who was in the tour guide business. Well, that's just gone, at least right now. So so that's the kind of thing. I'm communicating weekly with my membership. I just sent out an email this morning, and I'm going to be doing that weekly. I'm also meeting with my executive committee weekly, using this format, the Zoom format, which worked out very well. And of course, we just applied for our SBA, the regular SBA disaster loan. As Jonathan said, we're not eligible for the CARES Act relief right now. And New York City also has another program for disaster relief, which is only $75,000, and that's doesn't cover 3 weeks of my payroll.
Sure.
That
is a good point.
But we're going to apply for it anyway, you know.
I think that's a good point you make there, though. The local municipalities, in addition to the Fed,
yeah,
also rolling out their own stimulus plans. I know the state of Florida is doing something. Again, I think it's up to 100,000, which maybe doesn't move the needle as much as we'd like, but at least it's something. So look into your local municipalities. About
we'll take everything we can get.
Hey, Michael, have you thought, you know, one of the things, doing 11 months worth of dues this year and let each member take 1 month that they don't pay dues?
I'm moving to that's one of my next steps. We have a program. Our members can pay annually, monthly, quarterly. They've got a wide variety, and I need to do a little research to see how many of the monthlies that I can take a whack at to make them kick it up to annual right now. And I think giving them an incentive like that is a good idea.
Okay, just a thought.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you.
It was worth everything you paid for it.
Guys, I'm going to shut things down here for today's call. I hope you will join us next Tuesday. We'll do the same thing Tuesday at 2. There'll be new topics. What I'd love for you guys is to tell me what topics are most important for you. That way we can have a discussion about what you really want to hear. The other thing I'm going to do for everyone is I've got plenty of time on my hands. Like you, my business is in a completely different place than it was 3 weeks ago. So I'm trying to use that time to donate my time to people that need the help. So I'm giving everyone a 1 hour free consultation. There's absolutely no strings attached. If you want to just talk about your communications, how are you going to get through this thing? I'm putting the link to my direct calendar in there. I shared my cell phone with you guys last week as well. So if you'd like to take me up, go ahead and book yourself an hour. Other than that, please send me your questions or things that you guys want to discuss next week. And until then, keep the faith and keep busy. And I hope you all stay safe and be well. All right, guys, have a good one.
Take care, Gabe. Thanks for that.
Cheers.